With Spider-Man Brand New Day officially in theaters, we now have 11 Spider-Man movies. We got 9 in live action with 2 animated masterpieces. Now, some people are arguing that Brand New Day might actually be the best live action Spider-Man movie of all time. That's not really a hot take. I think the movie is absolutely phenomenal. But what I say is the best live action one, when it comes to a Spider-Man ranking list, honestly, you're gonna get a bunch of different responses. And I'm the kind of person that likes to respect people's opinions, so I don't think anybody's totally wrong, but I have seen some rankings that are just absolutely egregious. So today, here's my ranking of all the Spider-Man movies from worst to best.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Stoney the Great. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, please hit the like button and the subscribe button, and also hit the notification bell so you can be notified every single time I drop, and for all my return viewers, welcome back, gang. So I saw Brand New Day and it was fire, I'm not gonna lie to you. And ever since, I have been on a Spider-Man binge just to kind of rewatch everything to make sure that I got my ranking properly. Please understand that this list is 100% my opinion. Also, there is no way in hell that I'm gonna be able to do this video
with this mask on because Jesus Christ, whew, it is hot in there. But yeah, let's not waste no more time and let's get straight into the ranking. But it's so fucking dope. Now, admittedly, on this ranking list, bro, I did kind of switch it up a bit. You will notice that my long form ranking is a little bit different than my short form, and that's because, like I said, I had to kind of go back, revisit things, and really get my ranking accurately. And I think this ranking is a lot better than my short form one. Coming in at the very bottom though, man, I got Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now, there's a lot about this movie that did not work for me at all, bro, and there's a lot about this movie that did work. And one of the things that definitely did work was Andrew Garfield's suit. That is one of the best live action Spider-Man suits I have ever seen. Also, the web swinging in this movie, absolutely phenomenal. Cinema. You can definitely see where the Insomniac Spider-Man got its inspiration from. I've said it once and I'll say it again. I think Andrew Garfield is a great Spider-Man, an amazing Spider-Man. Wasn't the biggest fan of his Peter Parker, but I definitely loved his Spider-Man. There were a lot of great combat sequences in this movie, but the villains is the main thing that I absolutely hated about the Amazing Spider-Man 2. How do you give us Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin in 2002, and then 12 years later in 2014, we get the Herpes Goblin? Big L. Don't do that no more. And then they gave us Blue Man Group Electro. Hell no. And you know the studio knew that was a terrible decision, because look what they did with Electro in No Way Home. They just said, hey bruh, just do you. We just gonna hope that everybody forgets that you look like an electrocuted blue Skittle. And what really irritates me when it comes to this movie, bro, is the fact that so many people think that this movie deserves to be so much higher in anybody's Spider-Man ranking list simply because of Gwen Stacy's death scene. Now granted, don't get me wrong, that is easily one of the most emotionally heart-crushing emotional moments in any Spider-Man movie. 100% deserves the praise for that scene alone. But I'm sorry, bro, one goddamn scene is not enough for me to qualify a movie as good. Outside of the suit, the swinging, in that one scene, this movie, it just freaking sucks. But if you love it, that's on you. I respect your opinion. Spider-Man Far From Home at number 10. Yeah, man, after a rewatch, I realized that this movie is a Disney Channel original film. Respectfully, it didn't really feel like a Spider-Man film until like the third act, to be perfectly honest. Watching this movie made Peter and MJ's relationship not as important to me in a way, because you can clearly see that they spent majority of this movie kind of skating around the fact that they liked each other. It wasn't really out in the open, and it wasn't in a relationship until the end of the movie, and the end of the movie bled directly into Spider-Man No Way Home. So basically, Peter spent more time mourning the relationship than he actually spent in the damn relationship. They didn't even date that long for them to be that in love to the point where his life was just so ruined because of the relationship being destroyed. It's a little dramatic to me. Now, him losing Ned, that makes sense. That was his homie for years before Far From Home and No Way Home even happened. Plus, once again, I cannot stand the fact that these pivotal Spider-Man villains have just been reduced to people who have beef with Tony Stark. Mysterio is one of Spider-Man's most famous villains, and instead of giving him a proper story, they just made him a bitter dude who was mad at Tony. The same thing they did with Vulture in Spider-Man Homecoming. Now, granted, I understand that when it comes to Disney and the MCU and Sony, there's a lot of rights issues, and from my understanding, I don't think that the MCU can really use any of Spider-Man's villains properly, so there's always going to be some kind of like alteration or big change to the overall character and the way they look and their backstory and stuff like that. I get that, but damn, bro, that just really freaking sucks. I do love the end of the movie when he like really locked in with his spider sense and he was fighting the drones. That was a pretty cool sequence, I'm not gonna lie. And it's just crazy because look looking at this movie again, it kind of makes you think like, damn, this is the movie that came out after Endgame? Wow, that's kind of underwhelming, I'm not gonna front. But thankfully, this was the last movie that we saw MCU Spider-Man pretty much being Iron Man Jr. I don't care what nobody say. Y'all get mad as hell every single time people refer to him as that, but please look at the goddamn evidence. There was even a scene in Far From Home where he was literally doing what Tony did, bruh. Moving the little technology shit with his hands, and they were playing the Iron Man theme song. They literally put that scene in there to show us that he was just like his mentor. So yes, calling him Iron Man Jr. is not a goddamn bad thing. Y'all know it's true. Overall, I enjoyed the movie, didn't hate it, but I really don't love it like that. It definitely got bumped down a little bit for me. Coming in at number 9 on the ranking list, I got TASM 1. Going back to relook at this movie, I was actually way too harsh on this film. One thing that stood out to me so much in this movie is the way that they got Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man moving. They actually had him moving like a spider. That is such a subtle but amazing detail that I don't think any other Spider-Man movie has done, especially in that scene when they were in the high school and he was fighting Lizard. That shit was epic. As a matter of fact, DJ, run that clip real quick. The scene in the high school when he was crawling all over Lizard with the webs. Gas. But you see what I mean though? Like, he's crawling over Lizard as he webs him up like an actual insect. That shit is gas to me. I think Doc Connors was a great villain in this movie, but major L for no lab coat and no purple pants. Y'all fumbled on that one. And I also give this movie a lot of respect because it was a bold decision. Because from 2002 to 2007, we got Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, and Spider-Man 3 directed by Sam Raimi, starring Tobey Maguire. At that point, everybody associated Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, just like how we associate Wolverine with Hugh Jackman. So recasting him, very bold decision. I think Andrew Garfield did get a lot of unnecessary hate when this movie came out. People automatically like discredited him and like completely wrote him off because he wasn't Tobey. And that's kind of the issue when it comes to like superhero castings. People develop these relationships with these characters way differently than they do other type of characters. Like, people will be much more accepting of a new James Bond than they would of a new Spider-Man. People just have like a weird connection with the actors that play these superheroes. But I think that man did a great freaking job. Like I said, I actually think Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is better than Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, but I think Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker is better than Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker. Andrew Garfield was way too damn cool as a Peter Parker. Like, you skateboarded, bruh. Like, he had swag and shit. That ain't Peter Parker. Peter Parker is a skinny, shot, awkward nerd. And they did put him being intelligent in the movie, bro, but it wasn't enough to uncool him, bro. Like, he was way too cool to be Peter Parker. But Spider-Man, his quips, his swag, his attitude, perfection. Coming in at number 8, man, I got Spider-Man 3. Strange enough, the same issue that I have with Spider-Man 3 is kind of the same issue that I have with TASM 2. It's like TASM 2 tried to do what Spider-Man 3 did, thinking they could do it better, and they didn't. There were way too many villains for them to tackle, and these villains really had nothing to do with each other. And it's not like there was like a main villain with like a side villain. No, they tried to like make both villains the main. They tried to make Sandman the big bad main villain, and they tried to make Venom the big bad main villain. And speaking of making Venom the big bad, who the fuck was that? That ain't no damn Venom. How you give us a Venom that's shorter and skinnier than Spider-Man? Venom is supposed to be a big, tall, huge, diesel, monstrous character, and the Venom you gave us was a short, skinny, sassy man. That's not, no, sorry. That was a major L on y'all behalf. I also hated Tobey Maguire's symbiote suit when I first saw it, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you, dog. You gotta understand, I am a child of the 90s, okay? I grew up with the Spider-Man animated series, okay? I grew up with the 90s run of Spider-Man comic books. So when I saw the symbiote suit, I was expecting this suit right here. You see this right here? This is the symbiote suit I was expecting. The all black suit with the white spider, the white eyes. That's what I was expecting to see. With the white patch here where you can shoot the webs out like this. That's what I wanted to see. But instead, we basically got a lazy recreation of his standard suit, and they just painted it black. That was a very lazy decision. Now, like I said, the suit did kind of grow on me a little bit later, but I'm still not the biggest fan of that suit, to be honest, bro. I do think Sandman was pretty good, and I definitely am a fan of some of these fight scenes. I will admit that. This movie has some fantastic fight choreography. Other than that, though, kind of underwhelming, not gonna front. Coming in at number 7, I got Spider-Man Homecoming. I do still think that this is the most youthful feeling Spider-Man movie, which is very accurate to the character. This is the movie that showed us that Peter Parker really is a young, dumb high school kid. And not dumb as in unintelligent, I mean dumb like immature, like making childish decisions. It was given very much year 1, year 2 Spider-Man. And I think that is honestly a bold and respectable thing to do in a superhero movie, because superhero movies always make it seem like our heroes are perfect, they make all the best decisions, they're unstoppable, invincible, and they just know everything. But this movie showed us that Peter didn't know everything. Peter didn't understand his true strength. Peter still thought that he needed a suit to actually be important. We see him learning a very valuable lesson in this movie, and we can actually see him tap into his strength that he didn't know he had. But once again, my biggest complaint is the villain. I think Michael Keaton's Vulture is a phenomenal villain. I think his portrayal is great. The problem is I didn't like the origin story. I don't like how, once again, Vulture is pretty much just somebody else who is pissed off mad at the likes of Tony Stark. Unfortunately, Tom Holland's Spider-Man has yet to have a villain that is unique to him. But again, it's not Disney's fault. It's not Marvel's fault. This is all Sony. Sony is the reason why we will never get an accurate Spider-Man villain in the MCU. That boy make way too much money for Sony to give the rights back to Disney, bro. This is what it is. I also think it's hilarious how that man was just randomly in DC and nobody questioned it. Like, Spider-Man is usually in New York, then we go to DC, Peter's missing, and there's Spider-Man. Something ain't adding up. Oh yeah, in the speech with Vulture and Peter in the car, that was a top tier villain moment. The fact that he figured out who Spider-Man was that easily showed you how intelligent and cunning that Vulture really is. Wasn't the biggest fan of the final fight. And another thing that I did not notice in this movie until I rewatched it was the fact that he didn't do no goddamn web slinging at all. Like, I don't recall a single scene of him actually web swinging for real. And other than when he was like web swinging through the neighborhood chasing that truck, but like no swinging in between the buildings of New York. Major L. So yeah, I think this movie lost points because of that, but overall still loved it. Coming in at number 6, I got Spider-Man No Way Home. This movie did have a little charm to it, even though I do still think it was 100% fan service and nostalgia bait at its finest. I do still think this movie had moments, multiple moments, that played out like a 90s sitcom. Do y'all remember in those 90s sitcoms when they had the celebrity cameos and they walk through the door and they pause and kind of stand there and look around and while the crowd claps and screams? Bro, they literally did that when Andrew Garfield Spider-Man came through the portal. Like, he jumped through the portal, took his mask off, and was just sitting there like this. And like, while that was happening, I could hear the laugh track and the clap track in the background like I'm watching a stage sitcom. I do think this movie had plot holes galore, especially when it came to like when in the timeline did these characters like appear, because in No Way Home, Andrew had already lost Gwen, and apparently when he came through the portal, he had lost Gwen a while ago because he was telling the other two Peters stories about how over time he got angrier and angrier and he stopped pulling his punches. So clearly this was way after TASM 2. But then here comes Electro, who supposedly got blipped out during the events of TASM 2, so that's confusing. Then you got Doc Ock, who from my understanding came through the timeline portal when him and Peter were having their big final fight in Spider-Man 2, yet when Tobey Maguire Spider-Man appeared, he was older. So it's like, okay, when did you come from and when did you come from? It was just fucking confusing, bro. I'm not gonna lie. But like I said, it's just fan service. They just wanted us to see all the Peters on screen with all the other villains. That's all they wanted, so whatever. The emotional stakes in this movie were very high. I think we got to see a grungier side of Tom Holland, and I really liked that. That bloodlust in his eyes when he was about to beat the crap out of Green Goblin, I loved that. And I loved the apartment fight with him and Green Goblin. That was hard because it's Green Goblin, bro. If you put Green Goblin in a fight scene, gotta be squabbles. You can't pussyfoot around with a Green Goblin fight, bro. Overall, very fun movie, nice nostalgia, good cameos, but it was very obvious that it was just straight nostalgia bait, and that's why I don't glaze this movie like everybody else does. Entering the top 5, man, I got 2018's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Now, I was a little on the fence about if I should put the animated Spider-Man movies on this list because there's a big difference between live action and animated, and one of those differences is the fact that you can do a lot more with an animated movie that you can't do with a live action movie. However, there are plenty of live action movies that are better and worse than animated ones, and there are plenty of animated movies that are better and worse than live action ones. So I don't think the film style should change the qualification, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? These are feature-length Spider-Man films, so frick it. Let's just put them on the list, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, Into the Spider-Verse. I love that movie, bro. We got Miles Morales, man. This is the closest that we're gonna get to a live action Miles for, you know, quite some time. And you gotta give Miles his respect, bro. He's one of the only like mantle passed down new age Marvel characters that get respect. Like Ironheart don't get the same respect that Miles Morales get. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that Riri is a bad character, but she just don't hit like Miles do. She wasn't accepted like Miles was. Miles is accepted pretty much just as much as Peter Parker himself is accepted. And that's major, especially because he's a black Puerto Rican kid and we already know what country we live in. So the fact that Miles gets that much love, that's impressive, bro. Like the last 2 or 3 Halloweens, I've seen so many little white kids dressed as Miles Morales as Spider-Man, not even Peter's. That is great. I love that. So you got to give Miles his respect, bro. The animation animation style in this movie is honestly some of my favorite. I love that 3D comic book looking style. I love it. It looks beautiful. All the different spider people from the different Spider-Verses. The overall message of this movie being like, what it means to be Spider-Man. Also gotta mention the fact that they gave us an extremely positive, strong black father figure in this movie. Miles's dad is one of the most underrated characters, and his death is so pivotal to Miles's overall character arc. And it's nice to see Miles's dad in these movies because unfortunately we didn't get our Uncle Ben story from the MCU. So this is pretty much the closest that we gonna get. So yeah, Into the Spider-Verse, whether it's animated or not, bro, it's a great film and it deserves to be in that top 5. And then coming in at number 4, I got Across the Spider-Verse. Don't really want to waste too much time on Across the Spider-Verse, mainly because the things that I loved about Into the Spider-Verse are the same exact things that I love about Across the Spider-Verse, except on a bigger scale. More spider people, higher stakes. I love that little sneak cameo that they put in here, which literally confirmed that Miles Morales does exist in Tom Holland's Spider-Man universe, because remember, we did meet Aaron Davis in Homecoming, and he said in the movie, I got a nephew that live here. Y'all know who Aaron Davis is. He's the Prowler. And who did we see in Across the Spider-Verse? Donald Glover dressed like the Prowler. So yes, confirmed, he does exist in that universe. And can we please talk about the fact that Across the Spider-Verse had one of the most egregious cliffhangers of all time? Y'all need y'all ass whooped for leaving us hanging like that. It's been 3 years, bro. Beyond the Spider-Verse was supposed to come out in 2024. It is 2026 and it's August. Where in the hell is it? I need that movie ASAP, because if that movie is gas, I'm letting you know this right now, this ranking will change. But yes, Across the Spider-Verse, I think is damn near a perfect film. Love it. Entering the top 3 though, gotta be honest, and this is when I say that nostalgia will win. I got Spider-Man Brand New Day at number 3. I wanted to put it higher, but I can't. I just can't, bro. And I will tell you why a little bit later. Now, I just reviewed this movie. It's the topic of conversation right now. I don't want to waste that much time talking about Brand New Day and why I put it so high, because I've already said it in my review. It's genuinely a great Spider-Man film, bro. It is easily Tom Holland's best Spider-Man film since he's been Spider-Man. I think Destin Daniel Cretton was a genius for making his suit more practical. I got so tired of seeing all that damn CGI with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I swear to God, I feel like he has spent majority of his career as Spider-Man as CGI more so than in the damn suit. That just takes the soul out of it, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? I wish he had got his own villain again, but again, it's not their fault, bro. They got to do what they can with the legal limitations that they have to work around. I think everybody's performance in the film was on point. I love Peter and the Punisher's relationship. That is a bond that I didn't think would work that well. Love that Savage Hulk is back. It's kind of unfortunate that it had to happen like that though. And I do feel like Jean Grey did get in everybody's mind and scramble some things up and, kind of open up some memories. I do think that's why certain things happened the way they did. But yeah, Brand New Day is that one, man. Can't wait to see it again. But all right, let's go to the top 2. And I don't care how anybody feels about this, but at number 2, bro, I got Spider-Man 2. Now, here's the thing about this ranking, because my number 2 and my number 1 could be switched. They really can. Because admittedly, I think Spider-Man 2 is a better film than my number 1, but my number 1 has a certain nostalgia factor, a certain childhood importance to me that it will never be replaced. I am a Sam Raimi Spider-Man baby, bro. I was there from day 1, and the hype that came with Spider-Man 2 was insane, bro. Like, the hype for Spider-Man 2 was so crazy that we haven't even fully moved on from the hype from Spider-Man 1 yet. And you can see so much of Spider-Man 2 in Brand New Day. Brand New Day was like a combination of like The Amazing Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 with a little bit of the Insomniac Spider-Man games in there as well. Those 3 things together pretty much made Brand New Day. Spider-Man 2 took everything that Sam Raimi's first Spider-Man movie did and made it bigger and better, more polished. Gave us one of Spider-Man's most infamous villains outside of Green Goblin with Doc Ock. I think the only thing that I really just disliked the most about Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy as a whole was Mary Jane. She freaking sucked, I'm not gonna lie. Spider-Man 2 is nearly perfect, but I just feel like a freaking follower and a copycat for making it my number 1, because that's what everybody does. So I'm gonna be different and put Spider-Man 1 at my number 1, because like I said, bro, I'm a Sam Raimi Spider-Man baby. Nostalgia will win. I was in the theater when that Twin Towers trailer played, bro. That's how locked into this franchise I have been. I remember the Spider-Man Pop-Tarts, the Spider-Man cereal, all of that came from my childhood. Those are core memories. This movie just hit so different for me, bro. I love that first Spider-Man movie. Green Goblin, still a top tier comic book villain. I don't think we've seen anybody portray a villain as good as him outside of like Heath Ledger's Joker or like Josh Brolin's Thanos. Those are easily my top 3 comic book movie villains. And then he came back in No Way Home and brought that energy back. And I'm not gonna front, bro. I feel like he was even crazier in No Way Home. It's like he really had the character locked in. Also, you gotta give this movie all of its respect because this movie, X-Men, and Blade are why we are where we are right now with superhero films. If those three movies didn't work as well as they did, there would be no MCU. It is my #1 Spider-Man film. I don't care how you feel about it. I gotta say what I gotta say, and you gotta respect my opinion because I will always respect yours.
But alright, y'all, that concludes my ranking of all the Spider-Man movies from worst to best. If you agree with me, I rock with you. If you don't agree, then I'm sorry. I don't really care. You just gotta respect my opinion. And don't be commenting being disrespectful, you feel me? Because I would never do y'all like that. But to make this fun, drop your ranking in the comments below. Also, don't forget to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell so you can be notified every time I drop some new heat. Thank y'all for your continued support, and stay tuned for the next video. Y'all be smooth.